we got Justin Trudeau and the Liberals randomly becoming anti-immigrant for some reason. I guess cabinet member Randy Boissonnaud getting caught pretending to be Indigenous just sent them into fuck it, why not territory. Like, let's just go full racism and see what happens. Justin Trudeau is ordering a year's supply of black face paint as we speak. Let's have a listen.
Immigration. Let's talk about it.
Oh, shit. Just a second. Let me get my Make America Great Again hat. Okay, I'm ready.
Increasingly, bad actors like fake colleges and big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests.
Oh, thank God. You're talking about corporate interests fucking everything up again. See, that makes sense. For a second there, I thought you were gonna blame immigrants. I guess I don't need the hat.
So we're doing something major. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years.
God damn it! Fuck! Okay, I guess the hat's going back on. Jesus Christ, we were this close. You started so strong. How long did that take? 30 seconds. We're less than 30 seconds into the video. At least it can't get worse, right? Right?
There are two kinds of immigration in Canada. The one you probably think of most is permanent immigration, like when families come to Canada to settle and call it home. Every year, the government determines the right number of permanent residents that we want to admit. That's how it's been done for decades. But a plan that only talks about permanent immigration misses the other pathway, temporary immigration. Temporary residents are people who come to Canada for a limited time. Like,
whoa. Back it up. John Mohammed Doe? John Mohammed Doe. That's the default immigrant we're going with? John Mohammed Doe from Pakistan? John Mohammed Doe, I'm not gonna lie, this feels like a microaggression. It really does. It feels like a macroaggression, actually. John Mohammed Doe sounds like J.K. Rowling brainstorming a Muslim character. But we're gonna keep it moving. John Mohammed Doe.
historically, Canada's annual immigration plan just looked at permanent residents. The number of temporary students and workers that we admitted each year was left to the demands of the economy. It was usually a small proportion of our population, so it's never been a part of the long-term immigration plan. But after the pandemic, our economy came roaring back quickly, and we needed a lot of workers fast. Temporary foreign workers became such a significant part of our workforce that it'd be a mistake not to include them when we plan our immigration levels. So this year, we did exactly that for the first time.
But why are temporary foreign workers such a significant part of the economy? Well, apparently because of a labor shortage.
Canada is in the middle of a huge labor shortage.
Chronic shortage of labor.
Ontario is facing a generational labor shortage. 380,000 jobs are going unfilled.
But is that even actually true? Are these jobs going unfilled because of a labor shortage? Or because of a wage shortage? Well, there's good evidence that it's the latter. According to the Canadian Union of Public Employees, distinguishing between real labor shortages and employers who just want cheap workers, a wage shortage, can be challenging. One sign of a true labor shortage is when the wages offered for vacant positions rise, with employers being forced to offer more money to attract and keep qualified workers. Something that is clearly not happening in Canada, as wages have been roughly stagnant since 2006, as per the Toronto Star. So is there a shortage of labor or an abundance of people unwilling to work for low wages? Spoiler alert, it's the second one. So when these industries say we need more workers,
every sector came to us with the same message. After 2 years with closed borders, we need more people, more workers, fast.
What they're really saying is they need more people willing to work for as little money as possible. Because foreign workers are often coming from countries with even lower wages, they're often willing to accept jobs at minimum wage. And if businesses are bringing in foreign workers just so they don't have to pay competitive wages, well, maybe that falls into the category of bad actors that Trudeau was talking about.
Increasingly, bad actors like big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system.
But why in the fuck are we not going after these bad actors? workers? Why is the solution to blame immigrants and reduce immigration? We could, and maybe this is a radical idea here, actually be punitive to these bad actors. Issue corporate fines, shut down businesses, even make it criminal to game the system, as Trudeau puts it.
But some saw that as an opportunity to profit, to game the system. We've seen way too many large corporations doing this.
What's that? Corporations are doing horrible, evil shit again? That's it. I'm putting my foot down. No more immigrants. But if the libs are too scared to go after corporations directly, maybe they could do something to make it so businesses can't just get away with paying workers the bare minimum, aka the minimum wage. A minimum wage, by the way, that is not a living wage. So here's a crazy idea that just popped into my head just now. Raise the fucking minimum wage, because immediately it fixes the labor shortage, which evidently is actually just a wage shortage. And it also ensures corporations aren't exploiting foreign workers, but compensating them fairly for their work, as they should. And we don't have to do the anti-immigrant thing. And I can take off this fucking hat, because it doesn't take an economist to figure out that inflation plus wage stagnation equals a cost of living crisis. That's not because of immigration. It's because greedy fucking capitalists want to retain as much profit as possible at the expense of workers. But don't worry, Trudeau takes some of the blame here. For not blaming immigrants soon enough, that is.
Looking back, when the post-pandemic boom cooled and businesses no longer needed the additional labor help, as a federal team, we could have acted quicker and turned off the taps faster.
The taps being the flow of immigrants. So literally the only thing he's sorry for is not becoming anti-immigrant sooner. Absolutely wild statement. Later on in the video on Justin Trudeau's YouTube, by the way, how does Justin Trudeau only have 20,000 subscribers on YouTube? Holy shit. I just realized it's because he only started the channel a year ago, and that was to answer my Twitter question about how a dog would wear pants. I'm not joking.
Okay, question from Callum. If a dog wore pants, would he wear them like this or like this? I don't know. I think the whole point of pants is to cover your bum.
The first prime minister with a YouTube account only made the account to answer my question about dog pants. Incredible. Historic. Somebody put this in a textbook, quick. Later in the video, Trudeau implies the housing crisis is being fueled by immigrants. Something that a rising number of people in Canada actually believe, which makes no fucking sense, especially when it comes to temporary foreign workers, the main focus of Trudeau's video, because not only are temporary foreign workers, you guessed it, living here temporarily, over 60% of temporary foreign workers live in homes with 5 to 20 people. I'm not a mathematician, but I'm pretty sure 20 people living in one fucking house doesn't put a strain on the housing market. You know what does put a strain on the housing market? 1 million homes that nobody lives in, which, yes, is actually happening. In 2021, data on vacant housing revealed 1.3 million homes just straight up not being lived in. And this figure doesn't just include newly built homes that haven't been moved into yet, which tend to be bought up pretty quick. It's also secondary properties that remain largely unoccupied, like vacation homes, which, chill out, nobody's suggesting you need to give up your cottage. The big one is homes that are unoccupied, on the rental market or up for sale, and not on the market, being held by speculators in anticipation of rental or sale price going up, suggesting that maybe the housing crisis is more of a pricing crisis. Like all these vacant homes are too expensive to be rented or sold. And many of them are even being intentionally held empty by speculators until the price goes up and they can get an even better return on investment. There's not a supply issue. A lot of people want you to believe there is, and that's what they'll say is driving up the price of housing, but there clearly isn't. The only scarcity is that prices are so exuberantly high already, resulting in people being priced out of housing that is clearly available. Like, of course there's a lack of access to housing. Who the fuck can afford these things? It's an artificial scarcity driven by profiteering interests. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Article from 2022, data from 2021, maybe the situation has changed. Well, if it has, it's certainly not because of temporary foreign workers who, again, aren't contributing to this problem, but there's evidence that the data hasn't changed much, if at all. Perhaps the most damning being the recent attempt to count these vacant properties and tax the owners of them, which resulted in about 780,000 vacant homes accounted for. Oh, but Callum, that's less than 1.3 million. Nah. Let him finish. The count was supposed to be done on May 1st, 2023, but the deadline to file was initially extended until October 31st. Then, just hours before the new deadline, it was extended again until April 30th, 2024. Nearly a full year from the original deadline. Better Dwelling, who says this is Canada's attempt to hide its vacant home count, explains why this looks like the government is allowing real estate investors to cook their books, effectively cooking Canada's books as well. Delaying a deadline by a few hours most likely means they didn't get a suitable response, potentially indicating more vacant homes than expected. By delaying the deadline, Canada is also conveniently extending its vacant home count. Delaying helps to extend the liquidity window and minimize the problem. Kind of like when corrupt countries have to implement beneficial ownership tracking. They'll often provide several warnings and delays to help plutocrats liquidate or hide assets. This helps cook the books on data, minimizing the size of the problem to the public. There's no money laundering in North Korea, just like there's no vacant homes in Canada. So basically, the government acknowledged there was over 1 million vacant homes in 2021, most of which are being held dormant by real estate investors, then seemingly conspired with those real estate investors to hide similar results in 2023, and is now subtly blaming immigrants for the whole problem, suggesting that reducing immigration will somehow do something to address the issue. Because, as Better Dwelling puts it, real estate investors own this country. Because of course, politicians are expected to look after their donors, but also because it's just human nature to look after your own self-interests, whether you're a politician or not. And get this, really alarming statistic here, 30% of politicians hold investment property. So expecting politicians to go after real estate investors is like expecting this example to go after analogies. The call is coming from inside the house, okay? Given the choice, politicians will never go after real estate investors because they'd be fucking over donors, their rich friends, and themselves. But now they're blaming immigrants, which is just twisted and fashy, because fascism is just a knee-jerk response to an obvious need for socialism. Whoa, you guys are mad that there's an artificial scarcity of housing because me and all my friends are hoarding all this excess property for our own commercial interests? Hey, look over there, immigrants. But curbing immigration won't stop this. Like, do we think we're gonna lower immigration rates and all of a sudden house prices are gonna magically drop? No. That's not how it works. House prices in Canada have been on a consistently upward trend since, well, forever. A big reason for that is everyone, even private citizens, see their home as an investment. It's an appreciating asset, so you're always gonna want to sell it for more than you bought it. And on a long enough timeline, that's gonna make housing eventually unaffordable. That's just fucking math. Basic pattern recognition. So, I mean, profiteering interests on even an individual level is concerning and probably worth having a discussion about. Like, should housing even be an asset? I don't know, probably not, in my opinion. But that's a small portion of the problem, and we can avoid even addressing that for a long time if we address the big issue. Because do you see this dramatic increase in the price of housing around the 90s and 2000s? Yeah, well, that's when industrial profiteering interests started getting involved. Because that's around the time corporate landlords started dominating the housing market, buying up all the houses they could, creating artificial scarcity, and renting them out at rates profitable to them. It's also when real estate investment trusts, REITs, were introduced. And both of these types of businesses, corporate landlords and REITs, have a business model solely based on extracting as much money as possible from people's housing needs. But instead of blaming corporate landlords and REITs for what is clearly a result of their existence, we're blaming immigrants, which instead of solving any economic issues as it relates to housing, just creates social issues and frankly economic ones as it relates to immigrants. Namely, a bunch of fucking weirdos calling for mass deportations in Canada a la Donald Trump style. And it's not just rogue psychos organizing anti-immigrant parades like we saw in Hamilton, Ontario, featuring these guys who appear to be cosplaying the Power Rangers, but they couldn't decide who would go as the Black Ranger. It's morphin' time! Shift into turbo racism. It's also the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, who insists the government needs a plan to make 5 million people leave the country when their visas expire.
About a week ago, Justin Trudeau admitted that he broke our immigration system, and that brings new challenges. His own published documents show there are 4.9 million people here temporarily that are supposed to leave by December 31st of next year, 13 months from now. 4.9 million people. We asked what the plan was to track their departures, and yesterday his immigration minister said, we're just going to take people at their word. He admits that there have been 2 ISIS terrorists allowed into our country. What is the plan to protect our security and reinstate sovereignty over who is in our country?
Now, he didn't exactly announce that he's joining the racist Rangers and say mass deportation now, but in context, I don't know what a plan could mean other than deporting everyone. And I'm not the only one who interpreted it this way. A lot of Pierre's supporters are also of the opinion that he's implying support for a mass deportation campaign, which they're celebrating, by the way. And it shouldn't need to be explained how this type of rhetoric demonizes and dehumanizes temporary foreign workers, contributing to racism. But here it is anyway. Human Rights First says, xenophobia and anti-immigrant extremism perpetuate the idea that immigrants, or people who are perceived to be foreign or outsiders, threaten a country's founding ideals and must be excluded from positions of power, citizenship, or even residence. The movement and its ideology are reactionary. Movement leaders often leverage social anxieties about demographic shifts, social change, and political and economic uncertainty to fuel xenophobia. Sound familiar? The movement spreads negative stereotypes and disinformation that dehumanize and criminalize immigrants, people with immigrant heritage, and communities of color by portraying them as inherently threatening. So, the social issues are clearly there. But the economic impacts of a mass deportation mission also really can't be understated. Deporting just one person costs an average of $4,750 according to migrantrights.ca. So a campaign to deport 4.9 million people would cost over $23 billion of taxpayer money. And the supposedly fiscal conservative leader of the Conservative Party implying we should be spending that kind of money to remove economic contributors, workers, taxpayers, is ironic in the least funny way possible. And all of this, from liberals and conservatives, is just anti-immigrant nonsense disguised as economic policy, which It is clearly not.
All right, thanks for watching. If you don't already, please consider supporting my Patreon at patreon.com/CallumXOXOX. And if you do, thank you so much. You're the best. So if you see your name flashing across the screen, or if it's about to flash across the screen, just know that your support hugely helps me in continuing to make these videos, whether you're an active supporter or just taking a little break or have decided just you're done with it. Whatever the case may be, thank you so much. Huge help. And yeah, till next time.